news. It's important that when you run news operations and you want to keep the story growing, that you seed the story so that it can keep growing, so that the grass can grow taller, and eventually when it needs to be mowed, it gets mowed. And this is what news organizations do to keep content flowing. Why is this important to marketing? Well, as it is, you may think that it's not. However, anybody who's long in the tooth in marketing will know that, in fact, the content matters. And news is a content vehicle and a content outlet. And it directly impacts a lot of what people do with their marketing efforts, either because of earned news coverage, as in organic news that's covered, or stories of great interest that get covered, or commercial news coverage, where the content pays for itself to appear in the news outlet. The content is paid for by companies or brands or other stakeholders who have an interest in seeing the story carried through the news. So, news and the press are your best friends when you're a marketer. It's a very important lesson to remember, because it's absolutely true. If you have a brand, if you have some kind of product or service that you're putting out there, news is really and truly a very important friend for your work, for your effort. Not that it is required in every case. Of course, many efforts in marketing do not involve news. But if you can involve news, if you can get news coverage, whether earned or paid for, it's generally, hey doggy, hello doggy, hello sweet doggy, aren't you just delicious? Yes, you're a good boy, good girl, good boy, good boy, hello. Oh hi, how are you? Hello buddy, hello. So cute. Have a nice day. What a happy dog, he's a good boy. So even more important than news is dogs, for sure. But back to my message about marketing. News coverage, media, press, whatever you want to call it, is a very important ingredient in marketing. Again, you may not always be using the news as an outlet for your marketing efforts, right? If you work on SEO, you may not actually ever get the opportunity to have any of your materials covered in the news. If you work on search engine marketing, you may not necessarily work on that, but if you work in the media relations division or PR or general marketing, depending on what your work is, right? Even sales, right? You may find that your stories get covered, right? Even if you don't have a division or a department like that, if you're in a tiny little SMB, maybe you just have between 1 and 5 people in your whole company, and it might be that the boss, the owner of the company, has to do the press. That's fine. The important thing is to do something, some kind of outreach from within your company to every available news media that you can think of. The best way to do that is to reach out directly, first of all, to any reporters that you might happen to know, any editors you might happen to know, any publishers you might happen to know, and then people that work at those companies. And then, of course, you can ask them, if they're not reporters or editors themselves, you can ask them, who can I talk to about getting some news coverage about this great story. So of course that means you have to have a great story written beforehand, or at least you have some, if you don't have a press release written, you at least should have some notes that form a cohesive story from start to finish, so that the reporter might find interest in it and report on it. Here's the other thing. Just like with sales, it takes a number of touch points before you can actually close a sale, right? Well, in sales and marketing, with media coverage, it's very much the same thing. You very often will need to do 3 or 4 touch points with the reporter, meaning 3 or 4 stories in their desk drawer before they'll actually write about you. However, it's different if it's reporters that you personally know. If they're people that you personally know and you have a decent relationship with them, they may very well cover you on the first go around. They may very well not, right? But if they happen to be covering your niche and they have a pipe of content to fill, then it might just fit into their particular pipe. If they don't really cover your niche, but it's somewhat related, and they can see it's related down the line, then they might still fit you into your into their content queue at some point. But for that, it's best to have, at least more than one story available. And also, it may be the case that they really don't cover your niche, or just barely touch it, and so it's unlikely that they'll cover you anytime soon. However, they will probably know somebody within their organization, and maybe even beyond their organization, outside their organization, who does cover something like similar. But at least within their organization, they'll know who covers that general topic, and they'll be able to put you in touch with them if you have a decent relationship, or at least a professional relationship, polite and all that, acquaintances. And then when you go to that next person from their referral, guess what? Relationships from referrals can form great new relationships, and often do. This is not exactly groundbreaking, earth-shattering information. Right? That's the whole concept of social networking. It's peer-to-peer professional networking. Right? It's the same thing. Like LinkedIn, but in the real world. Right? Or if you're not doing it, if you're just doing it online, that's fine too. Right? That's what the whole purpose of LinkedIn is for. It's, hey, you know Joe, I know Joe. Joe's a great guy. Joe referred me to you. He said I could talk to you about, or I'd like to talk to you about what I'm doing with this topic or that topic. He said you're interested in this topic. I happen to be working in this topic. I have some interesting news for you that you might want to consider covering, that kind of thing. Can we have a discussion? I'd love to talk to you about what we're doing. All of those are different, short messages you could send. You don't have to send them all at once. Those are all individual messages you can send to different people or to the same person, depending on how you were referred to them, etc. So that you can introduce yourself properly, have a quick conversation. In my opinion, it's always best to have a conversation by phone, if not a Google Meet or a Zoom or whatever, at least for a few minutes. And the reason for that is it's a different touch point than an online email messaging system with LinkedIn or whatever. It's just way better to put a voice at least to the name, and then you can speak with somebody and engage with them more directly. They'll sense that they know you better when they know you not just online but also by voice. If you know somebody only online, you can get to know somebody very well online, that's true, and strictly online, but that's a whole different dimension when you recognize their voice. And after time, maybe maybe they'll see your face on your LinkedIn profile or whatever, but eventually they might see you in a video meeting on Google Meet or whatever. It has a whole different dimension than just email messages and things like that. So anyway, that is the good old-fashioned use media and use your networking lesson du jour for marketers. All right, folks, happy marketing.